Delighted to have Frank and Mehdi from ARuVR. Experiential and Blended Learning 3.0, how extended reality is solving key learning and development challenges. This is what we're going to be looking at this morning. So, Frank, over to you.
As curious beings, it's in our nature to wonder about the future. Even when we think about the past, it's only because we are hardwired to find patterns so we can better predict future outcomes. The driving force that shapes almost every aspect of the future of our civilization is technology. It's a gripping thought when you realise that for most of the time in human history, the lives of our ancestors were not that much different from their previous generation. The human species is about 200,000 years old, and most of that time, humans were hunters and gatherers. Even after we developed civilization, after the invention of agriculture, the lives of ordinary people living in, let's say, the first century of the Common Era remained relatively unchanged compared to people living 1,000 years later. Civilization shifted into the next gear only when the Industrial Revolution kicked in. In a span of only 260 years after the first Industrial Revolution, technology transformed our lives more than ever before in the history of our species. Most science fiction movies portray the lives of people living in the future with fancy gadgets and equipment, fulfilling all of our needs by command. Perhaps the first technology to mimic such a scenario and make us feel like we are living in the future is going to be the use of XR, or extended reality.
If you look at this screen, on the left side there is the digital world, and on the right side there is the physical world. Okay, so virtual reality, it's an immersed experience. It's a full digital immersed in that VR headset. On the right, on the far right, you got what is augmented reality, which is overlay digital content on top of the physical world. And then what you got in the middle, to simplify, you got this mixed reality, or as Apple now is trying to push a new term called the spatial computing, where you got digital content overlay the physical world, but also those devices can recognize, can map the digital world, the physical world. So therefore, the digital content can interact with your physical world. So for example, a 3D object can sit on top of your real physical table. So all of these terms, so VR, MR, and AR, I think Mike Cottrell on the message here already identified, all of these sits under the umbrella terms, which is extended reality. So today, when we talk about extended reality or XR, we talk about VR or AR or a combination of all of them technologies. So that is what extended reality is all about. So what are the challenges that L&D currently is facing? And there are different ways how to do this. This slide here shows the LPI dashboard. So this is pretty much what they have identified a few months ago. But if we ask to another organization, such as the Global Sentiment Survey that Donald did, you will find other type of challenges, which all the challenges were grouped in 9 main categories based on those words. If I ask every single of you, what are the L&D challenges that you are facing, you may come up with other challenges that are not listed here, because there is the fundamental key challenge that L&D is facing nowadays. It's everybody ask them to do more with less. Do more with less all the time. Because in summary, the challenges that we are facing in L&D today, it's all about lack of time, resources, and organization support, as we say here. And all the L&D people recognize the importance of new technologies, right? Think about AI, for example, what we have seen in the past year. but they don't have the resources or the time to actually implement these technologies and actually do more with less. So today, myself and Mehdi will show how extended reality technology can provide far more by doing and optimizing some of the work that you currently do. So XR, it's one of the technology that will provide you, and we're going to show you some case studies, how to do more with less. But before we start, showing that, it's important to understand where we're coming from. Okay, as an L&D person, we all from the same community. Where we come from? Where are our origins? And why we are talking about now these new XR, AI technologies? Briefly, everything started 30,000 years before Christ, right? So that was the first slide. Human being used to communicate, transferred knowledge using wolves in caves, right? But if we get closer, on the 1970s, all the training was primarily done in classrooms and using slides. Some of you, maybe if you are old enough like me, you will remember those kind of transparent plastic slides. So primarily on the 70s, everything was classroom based. And then when you're 30 years after, pretty much nowadays, more classrooms are moving into remote and more slides are moving into e-learning, right? Digital content. So this is where we are right now. The fundamental status of our L&D sits around classrooms, remote, e-learning, essentially. So can we stop for 1 second and listen to the community if the current status works or doesn't work? I'm going to answer that question with 2 researchers. The first one was done by Mind Tools just a few months ago. They published this research where they look at how the training has been evolving in the past 7 years. But this survey was interviewing the trainers. So they asked the business how you're doing training today. And as you can see, there is an extensive growth of online training. But then a few weeks later, Fostway released another research where instead of asking to the trainers, they interviews the trainees. And guess what? They find out that what really makes an impact for them, it's not the online training, but actually it's the face-to-face training. Hold on. So business are pushing online, but employees says it doesn't work. It doesn't create that impact. So there is a big gap here, guys, that needs to be addressed into the market. And the reason why, primarily, digital e-learning content is not effective as corporates, would you think? Because maybe the current traditional training is not enough anymore for the business and the life that we're living in these months, in these years. Because everyone wants to recruit, engage, upskills, and retain people, but they want to do it in an efficient way. So you know that instructor-led type of training has got some challenges. E-learning has got some problems. Classrooms, no even mention about that. So what are we going to do about that? And don't tell me that when you do your e-learning, you don't press next without reading because you want to get to the assessment and try to pass the course without actually reading anything. Don't tell me that because 99.9% do that, including myself. So the business tech get a tick in the box. Yes, I delivered that training, but in reality, it's not effective. So we have been, for the past 5 years, we've been introducing the concept of blended learning 3.0. Up until now, we had this blending kind of approach, which was a mixture between classrooms and digital content. Depending on the type of business, you do more classrooms, you do more e-learning, but generally you try to have this kind of blended approach in some instance. And we know, as we said before, it's not delivering results as we wanted. So we have introduced a new pillar into the main table, which is XR content. XR content is not a replacement of digital content or classrooms. It's an enhancement. Only organizations that provide blended learning 3.0 programs will have a much better and amazing benefits and results on their business. So you need to think about XR not as a replacement of what you do, but an enhancement of what you do. This is the blended learning 3.0. And by now, you know that XR content is AR, VR, and mixed reality. And the XR content are so powerful because it brings to life, finally, what we all know, the experiential learning cycle. Because users can watch it, can actually think about what they're watching because they are part of the topic, not watching a 2D content. There is a presence element into the topic, which is not possible with e-learning or any other technologies. They actually do that. So not only I'm watching, I'm analyzing, but actually I'm doing that work. It doesn't matter if it's a physical work, operational, technical work, but also can be practice soft skills work, right? Because I can practice how to manage a different conversation, for example, or I can practice how to deal in a specific scenario in a shop or in the office. And then ultimately, I will feel it because I'm a part of the story. I am inside the story. My brain, it's immersed into the story. I'm not watching a movie, a 2D movie, where there is a barrier between me and the content. I'm actually into the movie. I'm an active actor inside that training. This is why the experiential of this modality, it's something that only XR can provide you with. And this is not the future. It's actually happening now. I'm going to show you 8 high-level benefits that XR has provided to L&D. I'm going to start with the first one, which is content retention. So how much content I will remember after I do a training, right? As we say here, you can remember up to 90% of the content. And I give you some examples. Accenture did a research last year, and they proved that 70% of the people, 70% of the content were forgotten in 24 hours, and 90% after 1 month. Can you believe it? So basically, you do an health and safety training today, and today is 22nd of February, 22nd of March, your team will remember the procedures to don't stick their finger there because otherwise, an accident will happen. Crazy, isn't it? So it's only, and we got to hear another research from the National Training Laboratory in the States. But essentially, only when you experience, you can do that imprinting in your brain, and you will remember forever. Another key benefit, it's engagement. Of course it's engaged. I am a part of the story, right? I'm in there. Right now, if I were to do this webinar in VR, my engagement task would be much easier to engage with you because, we will be all there. And people are much more satisfied because the content are personalized for them. Not even mention that you can reduce the time for upskilling or train those people. How? I'll give you an example. PwC did a research and they took a topic and delivered the topic across 3 different channels: classrooms, e-learning, and virtual reality. As you can see here, the amount of time to train the people on that topic was far faster in VR. But that doesn't mean that then you move everything from classrooms to VR. We're not saying that you need now to move only VR. We're saying that in some topic, in some programs, you can save a lot of time. And saving time means, better people in the job, not only saving a lot of money as well. But while they did this research, they also find out other points that they were not aware about, such as, for example, 300% of the people were more confident to apply those skills. So that is, again, some really, really amazing achievement by using this technology. And then if you got better trained people, they will do less mistakes after the training, which could be accident or could be, losing a client or so on and so forth. And the performance is much higher, of course, because I got much more skilled. I got a hero in my company that knows that topic. And sometimes, because you don't need to move, you can also save more travel costs that you currently save with e-learning. And consequentially, you got a better carbon footprint results on the back of that. So again, those are just some high level. We're gonna deep dive into specific case studies to give you some better ideas. However, as you can see here, I cannot lie to you, right? Because you may say, hold on, Frank, if XR is so powerful, why not so many people or companies are using it? Well, because this technology has got some problems as well. And I can categorize those problems in 2 different categories. The first one is that everyone says, this technology is amazing, but guess what? I need a lot of money to create an XR training. Instead, with Articulate or Captivate, it's much easier, right? It's an authoring tool. I can do the e-learning in 1 hour. Instead, here I needed to spend £30,000 or $30,000 for an e-learning every time. If I'm lucky, some of the training may cost even 100K. So it's hard to scale. The content production, it's really hard right now. And the other set of problems, it's the content consumption. If the user wear one of those VR headsets, if you want to guide them, you cannot, because you don't know where they're looking at, you lose them, essentially. How many times maybe some of you has already experienced this technology and you got your friend or your colleague, they say, oh, I'm here, where are you? Pass me the handsets. I don't know where you're looking at. Well, you need to go there. It's a nightmare, essentially. On top of the fact that companies that has got 10,000 employees cannot buy devices for every single employee. So again, scalability in terms of content creation and content consumption, it's a problem today in this technology. Can you imagine if every single of you can create XR experiences as simple as using Articulate or PowerPoint, and then all your trainees can consume that content from anywhere with any device? That would be a dream, isn't it? And this is what we're doing. We are making dreams a reality. So with this platform, you will see some of the case studies, creating content, running XR training programs, it's not expensive anymore. It's not complicated. It's not time consuming. It's not hard to manage. It's now not a lonely experience. You can be sure now it's fully accessible, it's fully secure, scalable as well. We have created the first in the world XR authoring tool with no code, no skills. Everyone now can create AR experiences, VR experiences, or actually you can combine the two technologies and you can create a mixed reality training by yourself, such as you are doing currently with Articulate or others. And when you deliver this content to your trainees, they can access the content at their own pace, pretty much like they do in e-learning right now. Or actually, you can do also an instructor-led session in XR with them. So you know where they're looking at. You can collaborate, you can guide, you can moderate, so on and so forth. You can also teleport people in real location live. So I can visit a plant in China or a distribution center in New York without actually flying there, because I can teleport people over there in real time. And all these things can be managed within the platform. And yes, you can use the iPad. You can use the iPad, you can use the smartphone, you can use whatever you want. Because the ARuVR, it's an agnostic platform that works with every LMS, LXP, and also browser. You can deploy it over the cloud, or you can deploy it even within your firewall. You can install all the platform within your firewall, fully secure. So it is a scalable solution. As you can see here, there is just a snapshot of some of the clients already deployed this technology. And today, my colleagues Mehdi will provide 3-4 examples.
Before I start talking about the case studies, one thing that up until now, what we mentioned are, what is extended reality, mixed reality, augmented reality, virtual reality. What are the benefits in terms of how does learning in VR and AR compare to the other modalities in which we are accustomed to delivering learning? One of the key things that we also need to talk about is, well, how do we deploy it? Where do we start, right? Because that's equally as important as actually deploying it and then seeing the results. Where we've seen people fail is when you think you're going to implement this just as a tick in the box. That innovation tick box that we all have as part of our KPIs, and you think, yep, I want to try AR and VR. If you're just going to go, right, let's just do working at heights, or let's just do electrical training, just do it in VR, just one-off, just so we can show that we're a forward-thinking, progressive organization, you will fail because you don't have a plan. And my experience as a learning technologist of 12 years tells me one thing one of my previous chief learning officers taught me was, if you don't have a 3-year plan to adopt a technology and scale it, you are set to fail, because you think it's just a short term, you're just going to solve maybe a small problem and then you're going to move on. I'm going to share with you some nuggets of information that helped some of our clients adopt this properly. First things first, you need to choose the right use cases, right? VR for the sake of VR doesn't work. You need to make sure that you understand your industry, you understand your organization, the challenges that you have, and you need to understand your learners as well. I've seen some great questions about the demographics, right? Some people prefer, face-to-face training, others e-learning, others a mixture of the two, others, the newest generations. I think there was a point around the lack of engagement, lack of focus. They want learning in the flow of work. They don't want to go and access a module of 30 minutes to learn something that they can do in 2 minutes, that YouTube can provide them with, or Google can do the same thing. So the first things first is understand what are your use cases. The second one is really understanding what are the vendors that you want to work with. Now, there is a simple model here in augmented reality and virtual reality of, do you outsource it or do you insource it? You create the content yourself. And again, there was another question around, well, you need different set of skills to be able to create content. What Frank mentioned is spot on. The authoring tool, which is zero coding, actually all you need is instructional design, background, and expertise. We would provide all the empowerment so that you learn how to create content, right? And it is really simple to use. You understand your learners, you understand your use cases, how you want to design, you do your storyboarding. We will take care of training you and upskilling you on how to use the different functionalities to create learning. The third one is the deployment modalities. Now, we know one of the key things here are around, well, how can I provide a VR headset for every single employee? It's impossible unless you're cash rich and again, that goes back to a point mentioned here about lack of budget, and this is potentially expensive. So you need to understand really how you're going to deploy this. You don't necessarily need a headset to be able to deploy this type of technology as AR or VR. This thing can be consumed on a browser, on a phone, or a tablet. You can export the content in XAPI, in SCORM files, and host them on your LMS for one, ease of use, two, familiarity with content and that user experience, and three, for reporting purposes. So everything sits under one umbrella. And then you can invest in X number of headsets that you're going to deploy this solution with as part of the other modalities. More importantly, again, how are you going to measure success, right? Are you going to deploy this and then people are just going to put a headset on and have that wow factor? Oh, it was amazing, great, it was fantastic, I want more content of the same of this. You need to think about how success is measured. Are we talking about Kirkpatrick level 1, level 3, or whatever measuring metrics you use inside your organization? You need to involve IT, right? And this might be controversial because some people think, whoa, the minute that we start talking to IT, now it becomes like a complicated issue. However, it's really important because remember, when you bring AR and VR onto your organization and as part of your tech stack, you need to have a 3-year strategy on how you're going to do it. So you're better off involving IT at the very beginning than actually after it's become successful and then you hit an issue and then you can't move forward with it. Do a proof of concept to a very small audience to understand, to capture the feedback before you roll it out to your wider organization. Have an iteration modality and methodology in place, because the feedback that you have is you're going to be hearing back from a lot of people. And then more importantly, you need to launch and scale, right? So one of our clients that we've worked with very well is Coca-Cola, and they launched this because they had issues in some of the pilots, in some of the plants globally. The one that we worked with very successfully, they're in Cancun in Bepensa. It was a great trip, by the way. I tried to convince the family it was for work and it wasn't for play. And after 6 months of searching for the right partner, they selected us out of 19 other XR companies in the world, and they've seen some tremendous results on the back of it. So again, I don't want to read exactly what you can see in here. The key ones that I really want to bring to your attention is actually they were able to reduce the number of accidents they had in that specific plant to 0. And that was exactly what the Coca-Cola company out of the US wanted to happen for that specific plant where they had issues in the past. So we were able to track and measure the impact of learning for that specific cohort over a period of 12 months. And we compared it to people that were trained in different modalities. The other one is a slightly different, and it's UCL. And this one here started because COVID created a problem with UCL where they generate the vast majority of their revenue from their overseas students, whom were stuck outside of the UK, could not attend live lectures. So what they've done is they converted a percentage of their curriculum to actually be delivered in augmented reality and virtual reality. And again, the key metric here for them is they've seen a 75% increase in learning retention, but more importantly, look at that number in terms of the ROI that they received, because the funding they receive is from the number of students that they enrolled. This is not to mention the 168% ROI in terms of the extra revenue that they were able to generate, and they were able to increase the capacity of all of their courses by 3 times.
Using XR, you can create the training across many type of subjects and topics. So you can use XR for onboarding, you can use XR for processes, technical skills training, or even soft skills, as we saw with the PwC, as our clients are doing, on negotiation skills, and so on and so forth, customer service, and so on and so forth. There is almost 1 million already of XR content creators. In 3 years, we're gonna have more than 2 million XR content creators here. And this is a mix between, of course, software developers, people that wants to learn, coding, but the majority of these, down into the search, you can find all the details, are people like me, you, Mehdi, that I'm not a coder, but if I want to create an XR experience, now with the no-code authoring tool, I can do that in a matter of minutes. So the world is moving. More and more content creators are appearing, are embracing this technology. I know that here there are so many questions, and I want to answer all the questions. So XR 1.1, which is the basic XR experience, the entry level, if you wish. In VR, it's a 360 degree. In AR, it's a QR code. We are very familiar with that. Then we move into the next level of XR experiences, where you got a much more 6 degree of freedom, so you can move freely inside the space, or XR 3.0, where you got this full immersive mixed reality or spatial computing experience. Now, I got the 3 quick videos to show a difference between those 3. Let me play them just to show what I'm talking about here in terms of different maturity, different level of XR content. The first, the entry one, it's what we called 3 degree of freedom, which means it's a 360 environment that easily, it can be an image or can be a video in 360, and then you overlay interactivity, which can be simply by clicking and get more information, or interactivity up to gamified activities around your plant, your offices, your port, your warehouse, and so on and so forth. So this is the basic level of XR experiences. The second experience, it's what I told you, it's much more immersed. Here you got the 3D space where actually I can move. I got these 3D objects here, and I grab the objects because I needed to do a test. I needed to select what are the elements that I needed to choose part of the PPE type of process. And the third element, it's where you can have actually holograms inside your office. This is my colleague's house, by the way. So you got this mixed reality experience where you got 3D objects, you got people talking, explaining you what the topic is all about, and actually you can take those objects and put on top of your real desk, and then do whatever you have to do. That kind of process, that kind of technical procedures. Also, universities are launching a CPD course specifically for XR. And this is one that we are doing in partnership with the City University of London, where anyone, any single of you, so you don't need to be a student, any professional can go do this course at the City University of London and come out with a certificate, fully upskilled, how to create, how to deliver XR experiences in your organization. And by the way, you're going to find this link if you want to know more in the chat here. Maybe some of you are already aware that the biggest technology company in the world stepped into XR. They launched their own device, which is called Apple Vision Pro. Today, it's only available in the States, but we do have 3 of those devices. So if you wanna experience them, get in touch. We got offices in London, we got people in Manchester, and we can show you what the next generation is about to look like with Apple Vision Pro as well. And also, you will find us at the Learning Technologies event. We are one of the gold sponsors there. So on the 16 in April, we're going to be at the Learning Tech with our stand. You can experience all of these by yourself as well. Now, without any further ado, I know that we're kind of running out of time, but there are lots of questions here. So
there are loads of questions. I just want to say well done, Frank and Mehdi, for running through what actually could be quite a complicated topic, but actually you've done astonishingly well to cover all of the stuff. It's just that all of a sudden there was just loads of questions that were being shoved into the chat. So I just want to say well done, guys.